It's episode 91 of the Improv London podcast. I'm your host, Stuart Moses, and this week's guests are Sarah Davies and Julie Flower.
Hi, Stuart.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you? You are perhaps more commonly known as Twimprov.
We are, and can I just say how much I just enjoyed your jazz handing?
It was lovely, really, really delightful.
That's just purely for your benefit.
That was amazing.
I'm sure listeners can feel it.
Well, now you've pointed it out. I just want to make you feel like you're stars, the stars that you are.
Yeah,
I'm still doing it, I
amazing.
can't help it. Everything is 40% better. Not everything. I just think of a few things that are
I don't know, I feel
unimproved.
like there's no context where that wouldn't work.
Yeah, it's perfect. What, jazz hands just like, yeah.
Yeah, even bad news if you jazz hands.
I'm really sorry about your cat, jazz hand. That's awful.
You really can't rely on me to deliver bad news. Do you want to tell me about your stationery?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause this is lovely.
We're so excited about our stationery. So we made a little discovery today, didn't we, Julie?
We did.
Yeah.
So Stuart was just running a few minutes late to come and meet us to do the recording, so we decided to do some twin min. That's Twimprov admin, for those who don't know about it. So I got out my lovely kind of iridescent pink foil-covered diary, which came from Paper Chase, which is a sort of, what would you call that?
I'm going to go for A5.
A5
Yeah.
size,
Yeah.
and I popped that on the desk.
Yes. And then, would you believe it, from my bag I also got out, unbeknownst to you, my matching iridescent diary. But believe it or not, it's more of a, can we go A4 size?
Ooh, it's certainly proportionately quite a lot bigger.
Basically, this is us in diary form.
It is.
We
So,
match.
again, bit of a visual.
It's a
cue
visual
here,
gag,
but-
isn't it?
Yeah, visual gag. Hopefully, there's a photo to accompany
Yeah,
the
Sure there
podcast.
will be.
But basically, this has made our day.
Yes.
That and the jazz hands.
Yeah. So we are in fact twins. We
Yeah.
were separated at birth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then only met again about a year and a half ago.
And immediately thought we need to do improv.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And buy matching dresses and matching diaries. So
Yeah.
perfect.
And can I just say, do you know how many hours of shopping it took us to find the matching dresses?
No, I didn't.
3.
3, wow.
Yeah.
3.
It's very hard to find.
Yeah,
matching
dresses that horrible that match.
Yeah.
They are amazing dresses, and I love...
I love the word amazing. It's like
When you say amazing, was the subtext disturbing?
Well, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But this in an improv context or any sort of theatre performance context is fantastic.
Yeah.
If I were to see you both wearing them just around my house or wherever,
Yeah.
I would be alarmed if I opened, say, the cupboard door and saw you both standing there wearing those
you
dresses.
might be quite alarmed if we were in your house anyway,
You're
regardless of
doing the
whether or
washing
not
up, and we knocked at the window. The
You are
sinister
right.
Look.
The dresses aren't the issue
Yeah,
here.
it's
You
Not
are
the
right.
dresses. Actually, we do get some funny looks on the tubes home.
Yeah,
don't we?
but hey, you just go with it, yeah?
But also to find a dress that is a dress on me, not a top, and
Yeah.
actually isn't
And doesn't make
floor length
sort of,
for you.
drag along the floor for me.
Yeah.
Yes, I suppose for those who haven't seen you, we should point out that there's maybe a slight height differential.
We
About
think
a
it's
foot.
a foot.
Yeah. a good foot, but I am wearing heels today just to make up for it.
She is gigantic.
Yeah,
right now.
enormous.
Yeah.
So which shop did you get these dresses from? If your fans should try to decide to copy
Yeah,
you.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want everyone coming to our gigs suddenly dressed as us.
Because I would find that
Yeah.
really disturbing.
That would be
Apart from
weird.
you, maybe, because I feel like with the jazz hands, you're going to pull that off.
I'm happy to do
Yeah.
that.
Great,
I'm
it'd
happy
be
to do
perfect.
that.
Well, Debenhams in Canterbury.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the Debenhams
Yeah.
again.
I feel like it was that mixture of kind of when you're right at the end of the day and there's that level of desperation as well.
Yeah.
You know, just handing over your credit
gotta
card
be it.
slightly tearfully.
Yeah.
Just these will do.
We tried M&S. We tried
Oh,
on
we
several
did.
things there, but nothing was quite horrible enough,
No.
weirdly. Yeah.
Because they are, it's kind of blue and brown kind of blobs.
Yeah.
Is that? Oranges.
Yeah, black.
Kind of quite
abstract
geometric,
looking.
abstract,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
geometric type design. Yeah,
So I love the fact that you've got matching dresses.
thanks.
Why?
That's all we do. We don't do the
Yeah,
improv.
yeah.
It's just
So man, we
Talk
just stand
about
there.
our dresses.
Yeah. We're hilarious to look at just because of that.
Yeah.
And
I
the height
think we
difference.
just found it funny, didn't we? The
Yeah.
fact that, you know, particularly when we started rehearsing together, if I look straight ahead, I can't see Julie.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. And there are lots of twins who continue to wear matching outfits. So we're like, let's do that thing.
yeah, and I mean, it's not the only thing we do, but it's a thing people point out. So we kind of thought we might as well use this, have some fun with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Your show is, when you come on, what do you do?
We do a hilarious little skit where we pretend that Sarah can't see me and thinks I haven't
Pretend.
arrived yet. And then basically we do, I mean, usually sort of 12 to 15 minutes, whatever the set is, and it's usually a mono-scene format,
Yeah.
or it is at the moment, and we play multiple characters. So definitely 3 characters, sometimes 4, some of which may be inanimate objects.
Yeah,
It just
I
depends.
love being an object. It's my
Yeah.
most
Oh,
favourite
yeah.
thing ever.
She loves it.
Yeah.
I don't mind it as well. Yeah, so it's cool, and we just swap around the characters and stuff. And I have to say, sometimes it gets a little surreal.
It does. It does. Sometimes you have to rein me in a little bit.
Never say that. There's never any catastrophe.
But yeah, we're interested in, although it can enter quite a surreal world, particularly if our setting is something. We went through a phase of doing a lot of dystopian kind of settings.
Yeah,
didn't we?
apocalyptic kind of.
But we're still really interested in connections and relationships the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So actually, if we are playing 2 highlighters, we still want that level of connection as well, and that's kind of what's really integral to us. That's why the whole Improv thing is there as well, trying to have that connection the whole time.
Yeah, so we try and make it quite a kind of naturalistic sort of relationship. But even if the situation is pretty unbelievable, but it's fun. We had a talking stuffed dog last
yes.
time.
yes,
didn't
we
I
we?
saw that
did.
show.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That really stuck in my mind.
I think my most favourite one was the one we did in rehearsal when I ended up being Thomas Schaffenacker. But I had no idea who he was.
The popular weather presenter. How she could not know who Thomas Schaffenacker is, I do not know.
I googled him afterwards. Now I almost know too much about him.
And I think in that one you were also playing a painting of an old woman
yes,
or something.
I was.
So
Yeah. Talking painting.
yeah, we have a lot of fun in rehearsal. To be honest, this is just like, if people watch, great, but we're just having
I
fun.
think what's really nice with it, with the scene painting, I remember speaking to an improviser ages ago when I was kind of starting out, and they were saying, oh, when you are doing scene painting, can you visualise what's there? And although I'm imaginative, I couldn't. Like, when I was in a scene, I wasn't really beginning to see things, and I feel like now I am, particularly with that format. Like, you create the areas, and then you kind of really buy into what's there.
Yeah, we usually do a bit of scene painting, and it just really helps, I think, particularly in that kind of mono-scene format, and when you start jumping around the characters, because it can be quite confusing for the audience as well as for us. So just having some of those things to hang it on.
Yeah, and it
are
forces
really
you to
helpful.
do things like, because I come more from a writing background, so I'm super wordy normally, and it forces you to use your physicality, and it forces you to do object work and all those things that I'd like to get better at, because you have to, because you're trying to set that world.
Yeah.
When you say a mono scene, what do you mean by mono scene?
So just that it's all set in the same place and at the same time, so we're not hopping around. I mean, it doesn't mean that we would not do other kinds of formats in the future. That's kind of where we've landed right now.
Yeah, we in rehearsal we've explored quite a few, haven't we? So yeah, we were talking about that the other day, weren't we, thinking of what we might branch out into next.
Yeah, we thought that it's not something that's massively done. I mean, obviously there are some amazing two-prov groups around, but that kind of, swapping of characters, it's just really playful, really joyful. You never quite know. It can get quite chaotic, but also that's some of the fun.
Yeah. I like that feeling in improv of just being slightly out of control you know, in terms of, okay, I don't know what's going on here. Oh, I'm trying to kiss Julie's elbows or whatever it, you know, but there's always a reason
It's
for
like
it.
that.
Who wouldn't want to?
Well,
Yeah,
exactly.
Stuart, don't get too close
Well.
now. Yeah, nice elbows.
Would you like us to leave?
No.
Is it a jazz hand moment?
Well, yes, I will just hand your elbows.
Oh my!
Do you think jazz elbows is a thing?
It could be.
No, he's trying.
I
mean,
I think that's
Oh,
jazzy
yeah.
elbows.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is quite visual as well.
Let's just say it's beautiful and disturbing.
Yeah, at the same time.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were doing a lot of dystopian stuff. So what you asked from the audience, and was that a result of what the audience suggested, or did that come from you two?
I think it just, we went through a phase with it. So it would be, here's a suggestion of a place or something, a fairground. We're in an abandoned fairground.
Yeah,
Right.
everything was abandoned. Yeah. There are a lot of cobwebs, a lot of holes in the floor.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah,
But
it's-
you go to that place as
I think it's really imaginative, actually, when you're creating. I think, actually, I'm quite obsessed with places. I've written a play about a pier near where I live that kind of the whole pier bit leading up to it has been shattered, so you can't actually go on it. But since a kid, I've been really interested in the structure and imagining, you know, if you go in there, what might be in there and all those kind of things. So I think that was probably really strongly in my head.
I think so, and I'm really into architectural history, so there's something about this idea of place which is really exciting. And then, as you say, there's almost that sense of layers of what's happened in that place over the years and how you can reflect that. At some point, we'd love to explore that idea of kind of, I mean, sometimes when we do our work, obviously we're not necessarily in this time and space, if you like, but just that idea perhaps of exploring one space through different periods of time. That would be really, really interesting, seeing it at maybe 3 points in its history.
Absolutely, and we did a thing relatively recently, didn't we, in February for all about the celebration of the suffragettes, so we did some improv around that, and that was fascinating to have the period costume and being that really specific setting.
So where was that, and what was the kind of pitch for you to do that?
Sure, so it was a voluntary thing, and there'd been a bit of a shout out on Facebook basically, but it was at a big dinner in aid of Women's Aid, and it was on the 100th anniversary of, partial suffrage for women. So, it was just lovely, actually. We essentially, it was a big black tie dinner, and we just did these 3 vignettes to punctuate the evening around the passing of the bill. But it was very joyful.
It was really interesting, so we're trying to get really specific information into the scenes whilst also obviously making it something really interesting for the people who weren't necessarily an improv audience. So much fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And use a slightly different side of the brain, because actually knowing you've got to include certain elements of fact. That was quite an interesting line to kind of tread.
So were you getting suggestions from the audience for that?
No, it was just very specific time periods. But it's just that the scenes themselves were improvised rather than written.
And they're only 2-minute scenes, so they're not a lot of time to establish kind of relationship and all of that sort of thing. It's like straight on in there.
Cool. So what are the advantages of being in a duo as opposed to being in a larger group?
Good question.
More time to explore things is really interesting, and I think if you're on stage for 15 minutes and there are only 2 of you, it forces you to go in directions that you otherwise might not. You have to be quite bold.
Definitely. There's something about that idea of it's lovely to explore relationships and have that time, but also the fact nobody's going to sweep you and rescue you. You've got to get out of this yourself, and if you've got nothing left and you're only 3 minutes in, you've got to find something. So there's a lot of trust that develops. Not that there isn't trust in a wider group, definitely there is, but it's a sort of different kind of, we're in this together and it's just us. So a bit like any other relationship, really. It's just like you've just got to get on with it. It's us and them.
I think for that reason, that's why it's enjoyable. Because for me, the improv that I enjoy doing most is when I come off stage and think, "Oh, I was quite brave there." I think that's when I've enjoyed it myself personally the most. And I think that improv asks you to do that continuously. Whether it's successful in your head or not, you are doing it.
So I'm just trying to picture. So you're in a scene. And so you do a mono scene, and say you're playing a talking dog and a painting or whatever. How do you then move from being those 2 characters while still being in the same scene? How do you sort of edit from within the scene?
Good question. I mean, it does very much vary. We definitely we make sure that we take a good while to kind of establish who the first 2 characters or things are and what their relationship is to each other. So at least we've got that basis. And then hopefully at some point an idea manifests itself. So there's almost an obvious person perhaps who would be coming into the scene. So usually it is the fact someone's entering, but someone who they know or have acquaintance with.
And sometimes we might set, if we know there's very clearly a door somewhere, you can normally tell if one of us suddenly moves and goes to that area and maybe takes on a different physicality. So that's what we're trying to work on even more, isn't it? Getting really specific physicalities for each character, so it's super obvious to each other. Because sometimes we end up in kind of runs of things where we're maybe playing 3 characters all at once, and we also swap between each other's characters.
Oh, I love that. It's one of my favourite things.
It's such fun to do, and actually the audience do love it. But it's definitely then about having really clearly defined characters, and often that is with physicality
and a defined space on the stage for those characters to kind of live in. Often helps a lot as well.
No, I love that. When TJ and Dave came over and I saw them, I just thought, how is it that two people can play the same character and they look completely different, and yet I see the character that they're playing?
Absolutely.
It's so magical,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Brilliant.
We're
just,
having a
we're just
moment.
musing
We're
on
having
that
an
one.
eye
Yes.
contact.
Lovely. Yeah.
Contact. TJ and
dreamy.
Dave moment.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, I think they're a controversial opinion. I think they're pretty good. I'm going to put that out there. I don't know.
I think a few people have said that, you
Yeah,
know.
Do you think so?
yeah.
Oh,
I don't think you're the first.
I thought I was very
but,
much going against.
I almost feel like they should go into it professionally.
Yeah, you know what? They've got something.
They should really get paid.
Think about that.
Cool. So you're, in addition to Twimprov, you're also involved in lots of other things as well. That's really exciting.
It's good, isn't it? Just like, let's just do everything.
I mean, some people might say too many things. We just say, let's do more.
Yeah, how much improv is too much?
Yeah.
Like flattery, never too
Never.
much. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so we're based in Kent, really, although we're in London all the time.
Yeah.
So we're working quite closely with the Quarterhouse Theatre in Folkestone and coaching improv gym there, which is basically something that's grown actually over the last couple of years. So I started going along to that as a participant, and I was like, I want to be the teacher.
You can tell she's a teacher.
Yeah, so I'm a drama lecturer by profession, so there was lots that I kind of wanted to apply to it, and so I'm working collaboratively with them, with Jason Del Planck, who also works with the Maydays, who's awesome, and been teaching with him, and we've been doing weekly drop-ins, but also masterclasses, so long-form masterclasses and looking at different forms.
Yeah.
And then we've also formed a troupe for the facilitators, which we call Gym Pass. And we've had a couple of gigs, haven't we, with them?
Yeah, we have, and it's been really joyful actually to perform improv in Kent, because there is a sense that kind of everything happens in London, but yet there are real sort of areas of lots of cultural excitement in Kent, and it's just good to be able to bring improv into that. So we performed last summer at the Faversham Hopfest Fringe, which was really fun, very much a non-improv audience, some of whom had been drinking a lot of the day, who really enjoyed it, you know, lovely venue, and we did kind of sort of half the session was short form games, so they got the hang of it, and then we did a long form kind of montage set. And then at Christmas we did something really joyful, which was called the Living Advent Calendar in Folkestone.
Yeah, and that's a project that I was involved in last year as well, with a local arts organisation, Jim Jam Arts. And they basically, every day for the whole of December, they have a different venue in and around Folkestone, and it's like an advent calendar. So shops, pubs, disused spaces, outdoors, sometimes will have a number on the door, and they advertise, but you won't know what's going to happen each day. And an audience turn up, and basically they open the door, so they have a Mother Christmas who does all the announcements, and then they'll just go in to see the show. So the show we did for that, there were 3 of us in it. It was about an hour long, maybe?
Maybe about 40
less,
minutes,
actually,
something like that.
We did short form games. We had 200 people turn
Yeah,
up.
it's extraordinary. All ages, from sort of literally toddlers to sort of older people, grandmas, granddads.
Amazing. At one point, a man had to shout "baby" at me because a baby had crawled across the stage and gone under my foot.
It could have been a real disaster.
But also, that baby was a great audience member because every time we said something, it laughed and fell over.
Do you remember? you said the word tax return, and it just, the baby thought that was the most hilarious thing they'd ever heard.
It was such a lovely, warm audience who were responding so nicely to what we were doing. And it's hard because I do another show which is largely a children's show, but this wasn't specifically a children's show, so it's kind of how you engage everybody. But we loved it, didn't we?
We loved it, and again, really nice to take improv to an enthusiastic but predominantly non-improv audience. So that was fun. So quite a bit going on.
There's
in
a lot
Kent.
going on there, and we've done one show already with the drop-in people who come to the improv drop-in, and we've got our next one coming up in April.
Brilliant.
So they basically do short form games with all of those guys, and then we will do a long form set as well as part of it.
Cool.
So really exciting.
Yeah,
That sounds
definitely.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So we have relocated now to where there is not a shouty man in the background, so apologies for that earlier. You're involved in lots and lots of stuff, which is very exciting. Julie, what's up with Classic Andy at the moment?
What's up with Classic
What's
Andy? Yeah, what's up? Well, we were in the Nursery Theatre last night, actually, doing one of our monthly residencies that we've got here now.
Brilliant.
So we're loving it here. What we do is we do the improv comedy party every month, which always has a theme. So it was Easter/spring-like theme yesterday. So we have incredible costumes. Maybe I've oversold the costumes. To be fair, we have costumes and we do games with the audience, and we always have 2 guest groups. So that's really joyful because it means that the audience gets to see a variety of different improv. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So yesterday we had Mother's Day, and we had a postscript improv, and then we did a set as well. So
Cool,
that was cool, and we tried out our new format, which was fun. So yeah, Classic Andy continues to go on.
Well, is that every month?
Yeah, so that's every month here at the Nursery Theatre. Just a bit of a plug there.
Cool, excellent. Very,
I
very
sounded like I was asking you that just then.
Yeah, thanks very
And
much.
what's the venue, Julie?
Yeah. It's usually about the 3rd Friday of the month, but it does vary slightly.
Yeah.
And you say there's a new format. There's a new Classic Andy format.
A new Classic Andy format.
Right.
So for quite a while now, we've been doing a long form format, which we've nicknamed Special Places, but essentially set all in one place, a place that people have seen but never been in.
Oh,
So often an abandoned building or something like that. Yay! And then as a group we would play different characters interacting within that space. We've just started now with a format called Spoken, which Audra from our team has introduced us to, Audra Goffney, and it's great. So essentially it's you start with a 2-character scene, 2 characters kind of establishing a relationship, and then you go out in spokes from that in order to look at different parts of their lives, but then you keep returning to that same scene and replaying it. And sometimes it progresses, sometimes you might start in a different place, but actually you keep replaying that and then seeing different things and going off in different ways. So it's really fun. So essentially it's a kind of narrative format, but fairly loose, and you explore different parts of people's lives throughout potentially a whole lifetime.
That's a really nice structure, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really, and we loved doing it in performance for the first time last night.
Yeah, that sounds great. And you also have a Funny Ideas podcast?
Yeah, so this is a new thing, and actually once we finish recording I need to ask you about the best way to publicise podcasts and do the technical stuff behind them.
Like, how do you get a shouty man in the background?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
So I my background is organisational and leadership consulting, management consulting, that sort of thing, and also now I have comedy in my life, so I'm thinking in the Venn diagram of life, what does the intersection look like? And clearly it looks like a radio programme devoted to learning and development with humour.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. So I'm starting a weekly broadcast on a channel called Channel Radio, which is a business radio station on the internet, but based in Kent, so fairly niche. But then I'm going to make it a podcast as well, and it's going to be a whole meld of a studio guest talking about a different kind of broad idea, business issue like sustainability, future of work, that sort of thing. And then there's going to be my lovely co-presenter here,
Hi.
Sarah. We're doing live on air improv.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Has it ever been done before? I think it has. But we even improvise our own sound effects. And then we'll also do things like a review of a book or an article about a pertinent issue within the world of organisations and business and work. And I do this format called an improvised management model, which I occasionally do as a stand-up TED Talk type thing, spoof thing, where essentially you make up a business school model and then explain how that relates to leadership or something like that. So that's quite fun, or it is for me. So yeah, doing those sorts of things. And also the lovely Jason Delplank, who we've mentioned already from Folkestone, he has been recording some improvised headlines with me as well.
Ah, brilliant.
So yeah, a bit of laughter, bit of business,
Yeah.
bit of
Loads
learning.
of fun, and people come on and say things like the gig economy, and I've got no idea what they're talking about.
It's great.
What is the gig economy?
I think it's where you have jobs where they're a bit like gigs, as in you go and do the job and then it's over.
Yeah. Or you sing whilst you're doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I figure.
and you have a feeling of mild regret afterwards. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. And then you might just earn enough for your bus fare.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's called Funny Ideas Pod. Funny. Can I promote it?
Please do.
Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
please do.
What's it called, Julie, and
Oh.
where is it available?
It's called Funny Ideas, and you can follow it on Twitter at Funny Ideas Pod, and also look at Channel Radio. There we go. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
That's
guys.
all right.
Yeah, awesome.
And Sarah, you're in Improbotics.
I am.
How's that going?
Oh, I love Improvotics. It's my favourite thing. It's completely bonkers and it's really destined to go wrong, and that's kind of why I love it. So it's just a beautifully structured show, really. So the basic idea of it is that everybody has headsets on. Some people are humans, so they're able to control themselves. Some people are puppets, so they're being controlled by somebody who's typing their lines into the headset.
Wow.
And some people, or one person dependent, are cyborgs, so they are having a robot directly give them their lines. So we'll have a suggestion from the audience, and then we'll basically do long form scenes. But we're playing with the format, but last time none of us knew what the other improvisers were.
Wow.
Either, and you kind of have to try to, if you're a human, you have to provide all the platforms and all the information, because obviously the robot won't do that. And we're trying to, it's a guessing game for the audience basically. Can they guess which person is the cyborg and the puppet, essentially? Loads of stuff goes wrong, so my headset didn't work last time.
Wow.
But it's kind of, the cast is so supportive, the director's so supportive that it doesn't matter, and that's kind of where the fun is for me. And it's just such a unique format. It's just delightful to kind of play.
Yes, I love the fact that Piotr has raised the game for the amount of tech you can use in an improv
We
show.
have so much tech. He's even now got a flashing LED display that says Improvotics that he wears. So it's kind of like an Apple conference when the audience come in. It's like this motivational kind of, can you guess which one? And we all line up as if we're all robots. And, you know, it's so tongue-in-cheek, it really works.
Nobody else has got any... they're no longer allowed to complain about the tech in their shows.
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
that is the
new
standard
level,
of the amount of tech.
Yeah. But he really knows what he's doing with it, and it's as seamless as it can be for the amount of tech that so much fun.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And you're also joining City Improv for their...
Yeah, so that's a recent thing, basically. Initially for the Brighton Fringe shows that they're doing, but we have got some London shows coming up as well now. So had a couple of rehearsals with them. Really fun. Loads and loads of short form games, which I really like. Really looking forward to the shows with that.
Yeah, they're fun to...
Yeah.
I've guested, I think, a couple of times now at Camden Fringe with City Improv, and they're great. I mean, and obviously they always organise Shoreditch Improv Festival as well. Obviously not this year; they're taking a break, but no, they're a great crowd.
Yeah.
Yes, no, they're lovely. Well done, City Improv.
Yay!
Well done.
Hooray for existing!
And so you're also in Baron Munchausen?
Yeah, I like to be in almost too many shows.
Yeah, actually, is that... Should we just say what you're not in? That might be
anything
easier.
scripted at the moment. So that's The Extraordinary Time Travelling Adventures of Baron Munchausen.
I mean, that's pretty much what I was going to say.
Yeah, but so when I text about that takes a lot of time. So this was, I guested with them in Edinburgh over the summer as well as with a few other shows, and it's such a fun format, and it's basically storytelling really from the Baron Munchausen stories. As a stimuli, basically. So Baron Munchausen was a guy who basically overconflated every story that he ever told, essentially, to a ridiculous level. So there's lots and lots of interaction with the audience for kind of words, places, events, things like that, but it gets quite silly quite quickly.
Right.
So each of us has a specific...
Hard as that is to believe.
Each of us has a specific character, and it's essentially a storytelling monologue, so one person up on stage at a time generally.
Oh, right.
And we also will sometimes bring the audience up on stage, and we have certain props that we use and that kind of thing to tell these stories, basically. So, we did that at Edinburgh. Now it started touring, so we did the Leicester Comedy Festival, which was so much fun. We've got a few other dates lined up around and about, and then back to Edinburgh. So,
cool.
Really fun.
Cool. Talking of Edinburgh, you're heading up a reconnaissance this year?
Yeah. So we're both up kind of doing various... I'm doing that again in a couple of other shows and some theatre reviewing, and you're doing some plays, aren't you?
I'm doing a scripted piece.
Wow.
I know. And the thing is, I've not done a scripted play for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of... essentially amateur, but a lot of scripted work on stage, which I loved, but then obviously discovering the improv bug over the last kind of 3 years or so, I've kind of focused more on that, but it's really joyful. So taking up a couple of 1 hour plays, doing them in rep, and they're from a very talented writer-director who is based in Kent as well, yay! Called Ian Tucker Bell, and we're taking up a couple of plays. One was called From Today Everything Changes, and the other's called Transpennine, and the first one was taken up to Edinburgh last year, so but I wasn't in it, so I'm really excited, and also hoping to do some guesting on different improv shows, so it's just kind of being there for a couple of weeks. Hopefully there'll be lots of opportunities.
Gone for the last, I think, 11 years in a row. I'm really addicted to it. Mostly before last year doing theatre reviewing, actually. That was my standard thing. But being in the improv shows is even more joyful. It's so much fun.
But learning lines again is a bit daunting for me. So it's, oh no, I've actually got to do some work. Yeah, what's that all about?
Cool. And you also do some corporate stuff?
Yeah. So, kind of. So, do you
want to run that again?
Well, yeah. Yes, and we are. Hell yeah. So, as I said, my background is kind of leadership and team development. So I already do a lot of kind of facilitation of teams to help them work better together, all that sort of stuff. And we know that improv exercises work really well in that kind of area. And so it seemed like a good opportunity for Sarah and I to work together, particularly given Sarah's background in education. So that's something that we're also kind of incorporating into kind of bespoke workshops. So there's an opportunity here for it not to simply be about the improv, but also about bringing in, say, business school models, organisational psychology type stuff to create quite a bespoke approach. So I think that's a unique selling point, really.
Fantastic. We're all about unique selling points.
Absolutely.
Cool. And Sarah, you're organising something to do with 28 plays later?
Well, yeah, it's not really an official thing, but I did 28 plays later. So
how did you find that?
Oh, I loved it.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you not find some of the prompts a little bit uninspiring?
I didn't particularly. I think because I teach a lot of devising, so I'm really used to kind of like having a stimuli and doing whatever you want with it.
Ah, right.
So there was one which was about, what was it? Korean hip hop or something. I was like, I've never heard of that. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I had to really look that up. But I really K-pop. We're so hip hop.
Yeah.
It was a letter of the alphabet and some kind of hippity hop, Stuart. So yeah, I loved it. It was when I was really busy because I was away doing the Leicester thing and all that kind of thing. But I very quickly got used to just taking a laptop with me on the train or that kind of thing, and just forcing yourself to write every day, because my background initially was more in playwriting. I did an MA in playwriting, teaching playwriting, was having some plays on and all those kind of things. But then I really got the improv bug. So I was still writing, but it wasn't in such a consistent way.
Yes.
So for me to get my teeth back into that, it was just amazing. And also to be able to, you have all these ideas that you don't ever develop. And actually that was my chance to do it. So I wasn't able to make the official sharing that Theatre of Delhi are doing for 28 Plays Later, so I'm hoping to do my own version of it.
Brilliant.
Probably at the nursery training centre, hopefully, to hire a room, and just have some improvisers and actors on board to come and read the plays out. And my basic idea at the moment is we have some writers, and maybe we'll say our favourite play, so we definitely get to hear that. But also, this is the scary bit, and this is the bit that will involve a lot of printing and admin. You've got to take all your plays with you, and we literally flip a coin or spin a wheel or do something.
Kind of Russian roulette.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because I want to force myself to actually hear some of mine that maybe I don't think are as good quality.
Yes.
Because I just think it's more interesting that way. And really, the only aim of that at the moment is just to share the work and have some kind of feedback, probably in the pub. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, that's fantastic. Right, so I think it's time for the big final question.
Is it about the diaries?
Yes.
Is it station related? If it's not, then
you might just storm out.
We're over this.
So what would you say your respective signature moves are? What is it that you do brings the house down? They go, oh, Sarah's done it again, Julie's done it again.
Oh,
Save the day.
That is a tough question, Stuart.
That's why I ask it last.
Oh my god.
I have to say the dresses, Stuart.
The dresses?
If it wasn't for those, we'd be meaningless.
Or can you identify the other person's signature move? Is that harder?
I think for us, it's more kind of the format and style that we're using, which obviously is a style that other people use, of course it is, but I think we tend to, the way we think is relatively similar, and I think maybe the worlds we create are fairly unexpected. Not that we're seeking to be controversial, but I think we probably come across as two very nice middle-class ladies.
And it all goes horribly wrong. Actually, in that vein, I was going to say that kind of one of my signature go-tos, and I try not to, is kind of the, I suppose what you might define as almost kind of sexually repressed WI lady.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's just one of those classic characters. Particularly if you then add in a Yorkshire accent, it's just perfect.
Yeah.
So I still enjoy doing that person.
And I mean, I said it earlier, but my favourite thing is being an object.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any excuse.
It's joyful.
Cool. I think that's everything. Wow.
Awesome.
You're
Thank
doing
you
all the
very
improv.
much.
Well done.
Right, yeah, all the improv. Oh, we might be going to Amsterdam to do it as well.
yes.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
that.
Right. Tell me about going to Amsterdam to do improv.
It's Amsterdam Improv Marathon that we've applied for. So I did it last year. I was part of Merlin's Beard, which was a improv society at the University of Kent that I
Cool.
joined.
Yep.
Even though
I would have guessed.
I'm slightly older than the...
She was old enough to be their mother.
They talked about things I didn't even know what they were.
like K-pop.
Yeah, K-pop and the hippity hop. But yeah, basically that was so much fun. So we did that. So it's a 12-hour improv marathon. So you have a slot, and then you also are in a mixer team normally.
Yeah,
the first one was last year. So I think they're doing that again, and we've applied to do it
Yeah,
as
we
Twimprov
have.
as well, which is
brilliant.
so much fun.
We figured this was the year in our diaries to take on Europe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
that's, international improvisers.
Yep.
Yes.
Twimprov.
And it's all going in your matching diary.
Yes.
We may even invest in new dresses for the occasion.
Wow.
Yeah. We're thinking maybe sequins, kind of the evening dress
we were
style.
thinking that.
Yeah.
Sounds lovely.
Another trip to Debenhams is on the horizon.
No!
Watch out, the storekeepers
Yeah.
in Canterbury. Twimprov are on the way.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
thank you,
Thanks so
Stuart.
much.
Lovely.
I made this.
That's improv!